Hi, Ralph here, NoizeBusters. So the next basic Bitwig tutorial is about the devices itself they have. So if you open the browser by double-clicking or pressing this plus sign, you come to the browser, and then you have here you have all the Bitwig devices. So we load up an instrument. They have different ones. Like we start here with the polygrid, which is a 2 oscillator synthesizer plus a noise, and it has also inside the oscillator you have 2 sub oscillators, so it's quite flexible, that one. It doesn't look like that's the main thing anyway with the Bitwig devices. They are not very complex, most of them. The idea is like making chains out of it to get complex sounds. So the individual plugins are most of the time quite basic in the function. So that's the polysynth, where you have these 2 oscillators where you can shape the waveform, and here you can mix the other oscillator inside. And you have, as said, the sub oscillator. And then you have a filter envelope and an amp envelope. And also there are different types of filters here. And in the filter itself you have also like a shaper, which then takes the signal and then folds it or shapes it in different directions. So let's take the fold, for example. Maybe we put an oscilloscope, which they have also inside. As you can see here, make it this a little bit bigger. If I turn that fold, it folds the waveform even more. May I go down to basic sound? So we take now that's the square wave. That's the square wave with not so much resonance. And here you see what that shaper does. Or let's take the sine. So you can see it's quite flexible from the sound you can get out of it, so it's definitely worth to check it out and take some time for playing around with it. And then what's next? We take, let's take the FM4, which is a bit like the operator from Ableton. It's like a 4 oscillator FM synth, and I take this everything on 0. So if I play a note, it should be a sine wave. Yep. And then you can take the second oscillator, for example, and then modulate the first one, so you get different sounds and shapes. Or you can also modulate the oscillator itself. Same with that synthesizer, so it's quite basic, but you can get a lot of different sounds out of it. And this one doesn't has a filter, so if you want one, you just take a filter what you want. So we have here 4 filters, like one is the vocoder, but then you have a resonance bank and a ladder filter which is rebuilding the Moog filter. And you have this one as well. So let's go to the next one. Then you have a simple organ. And if you want to check out presets, you have here this folder button. When you click it, you have different for the organ, you have different settings where you can browse through. Ooh. And so that's the organ. Then what else we have? Then we have here, we have a whole bunch of percussive instruments like kick, snare, tom, hi-hats, cowbell, and clap, and which I come to later and go through the other ones first. And then you have a phase 4, which is a quite interesting one as well. That's a phase modulation synthesizer. So you have 4 oscillators again, which you can modulate each other in crazy ways. And there are millions of presets inside of this one as well. Phase 4. I also made some for the library, which you can find here. Quite nice stuff. And then let's save this. If you want to open the browser and you want to have a specific selection, then you can right click here and save this in the browser. So every time I open this now, it should go back to the one I selected last time. That's maybe good to mention. And then we have the polygrid. Oh, let's do the sampler first. Sampler, basic thing. You can drag and drop any any sound inside and then play that thing like a sampler would do. And then you have also possibilities to make multi-samples, and here you have a bigger editor where you can drag your samples in, assign root nodes, a lot of options here. Zones you can do as well. So, and then the next one is the polygrid. The polygrid is a modular environment inside Bitwig where you can build your own synthesizers or effects or whatever you come up with, and it's very flexible. It's needs a bit time for diving in, but it's definitely big fun. I use it a lot with my Eurorack for sending out CV signals and then control stuff from the Eurorack. And if you open it first time, you have a basic patch with one oscillator and envelope, and it goes out to the output. And I'm not diving in much into the polygrid now because it would take too much time, but just go through some of the presets. So quite nice environment to go crazy in sound design, and you should definitely check this out. So that's from the synth side, and then we have that percussions, for example a kick, basic kick drum, but quite nice for several sounds and genres. And then you have the other ones, it's self-explaining, like snare drum and stuff. So, and then you have also instrument layers where you can layer more than one instrument inside, and you have the instrument selector. That's quite interesting that you can load up. Maybe there is even a preset. Yep. So every time, for example, now I press a key, it changes to a different setting on that synthesizer. Or you can take different synthesizers inside VST plugins, whatever, and then switch through them, and you have different options like with the notes, or then you can also assign MIDI controllers to it and swipe through. And then you have different containers like the step mode, XY instrument, node mode, LFO mode, which you can also morph through different stuff. And then you have the audio mode as well, and the chain. And the chain is, like it says, you have, for example, a polysynth and then some other effects and after it, and then you can save the whole thing as a chain. And then also what's good to know that every effect or instrument has this menu here. These are the macro controls, and you have different pages where you can set up. So here you have one for the oscillator 1, the second, the mix, filter part, and so on. And you can do your own, and this you can do for any plugin and also for all of your VST plugins. That's super handy, and also you can save it with the preset, and so you have to do it only once if you need specific controls all the time. So again, Bitwig audio effects, and I save this. So here are all the plugins they have inside. So you have an amp, and a bit crusher, which I quite like. You have also a shaper here. I like the sound of that bit crusher, and also like in total all the plugins are really nice from the quality and nice sounding. Let's show you with the reverb, for example. Really like that. And then you have Plur. That's interesting effect. It's like a harsh effect you can do, so you can delay the left and the right channel independently to make some stereo images with the sound you have. Really nice one. I use that nearly in every track now on different stuff. And then you have a chorus, which is self-explaining, a comp filter, which is also quite nice. Then you have a compressor, and then you have a de-esser for vocal recordings to get the S sound a bit away. Then 3 kind of delays, a distortion, dual panning, and dynamics. And then you have 4 EQs now with the version 3.2. And I have to say the EQ Plus is a really cool addition to the other ones, and I like this color coding, color scheme now. So you can see from the colors in which area you are. So red is like more sub bass area, and then it goes up in the rainbow colors. It's quite nice, and I have to say that EQ is amazing. Has a lot of slopes possibilities and a nice analyzer, and you can also take signals from other tracks inside and can have them in the background, so you can see what's happening on the other track. Very cool EQ. And I mean I use FabFilter Pro Q a lot, but since they have the Plus, I don't use the Pro Q much anymore, I have to say. Maybe I should do a video about this, like in depth, so you can check out all the features from this EQ. And what else? Yep, you have two filters, on the normal filter and ladder filter, or four. Oh, sorry. The resonator bank is there as well, and the vocoder. And then you have a flanger, frequency shifter, and then the FX grid where you can build your own effects. And then also an FX layer, an FX selector where you can switch through different effects with MIDI or knobs, whatever. Then you have a gate, and this HW clock out and CV out are for sending stuff out to your hardware, like the Euro rack. Very cool. And then you have also containers where you can do multiband stuff or mid-side effects. Then the handy oscilloscope, and then a limiter, phaser. That's all self-explaining, I guess. Pitch shifter, replacer. You can use a signal and then replace it with something else. Make cool for changing drum sounds on the fly or whatever. And then we have, where we are, the resonator bank, the reverb, ring mode, and then rotary emulation, then a nice saturator, very flexible one too, and spectrum analyzer. And what else? Then we have a stereo split container where you can put two say what's left and right, different effects. And then test tone generator, time shifter tool. Tool is like the utility in Ableton with like volume and panning and the width of the sound. And then we have a transient controller as well, and a tree monster. I'm coming to this in a second. A tremolo effect and a vocoder, and the XY effect where you can XY some different effects. So the tree monster is I don't know what it is, but it sounds quite weird. So as you can see in most of the plugins, they look really basic, but it's the combination where it's getting really interesting. It's definitely worth to dive into their arsenal of plugins, because it opens up a lot of possibilities in sound design and stuff which you would hardly reconstruct with any VST plugin. It goes quite deep and it's big fun to explore. So check them out, and if you have any questions, let me know, and see you next time.